Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather in the Octagon, but no kicks allowed. Why? Hello everybody, welcome to Fight Scene. This is my YouTube channel where I talk about things that are going on in the world of MMA and combat sports. And today I want to talk a little bit about a potential matchup between Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor, but this time in the Octagon and the MMA world. I made some videos last week where I was saying that I'm sick. Well, I finally recovered after sleeping a whole bunch. And when I woke up and went on the internet, everybody was freaking out because some guy on Twitter, who's not, I don't really know who he is, and I've never really heard much about him in the past, was saying, hey, there's going to be this contest in the Octagon under the UFC banner, co-promoted by Mayweather Promotions and McGregor Promotions, whatever he calls it. And it's going to happen with 4-ounce gloves, no boxing boots, and it'll be in an octagon, but there's no kicks allowed, there's no takedowns, there's no grappling, and maybe there'd be some stuff allowed in the clinch. And so obviously this channel is to talk about some things that are happening in the news, and I thought I would talk about this. I mean, it is the somewhat next logical step to be talking about, because after Floyd Mayweather beat Conor in a boxing match, obviously everybody came to Conor's defense and said, well, if it was an MMA match, this wouldn't even be close. And so the boxing fans, I'd say on the whole, didn't really give Conor McGregor much respect for what he did in the boxing ring. And if anything, I saw the opposite, and I was a little bit disappointed by that. You saw the MMA fans sort of run to Conor's defense and say, oh, look what a good job you did. We're really proud of what you did, and we're really proud of how you represented the sport of MMA. And then you had boxing fans that basically said, oh my gosh, you know, Conor got his rear end handed to him and all this stuff, and never really said, well, you know, he had a pretty good showing considering. Maybe they just didn't believe he had a good showing, which is possible too. You know, there's a lot of people saying that Floyd gave him those first set of rounds because Floyd is known to take those earlier rounds off to try and figure out his opponent. And he doesn't mind losing those first couple rounds if it ends up with him having a larger gas tank and being able to, you know, determine how he needs to spend the later rounds to really win the fight. I hope that makes sense. But this time we're seeing that discussion now kind of bleed over and say, well, what if this fight were to happen in MMA? If you look at one of my previous videos, there was a rumor going around from Floyd Mayweather, who did that advertisement or whatever, saying, well, what are the chances of me in 2018 fighting in the Octagon? And so Floyd's the one swirling the rumors because he likes to have his name in the news, and so he likes being talked about. You saw him on Saturday night in the middle of UFC 223 on Showtime with an interview, and they're asking him, what are the chances that you're going to be in the Octagon or fight MMA? And he said, I think they're pretty good. If the zeros are right, if the money's there and it makes sense, then I'll do it. And so, you know, Floyd has no problem talking about this fight. And if you look at that previous video, the reason why I made it was because there was this rumor going around that potentially he was going to fight CM Punk, which would be a lot more logical opponent given that Floyd Mayweather has 0 MMA fights. And so I know you're probably, like many fans, sick of talking about this hypothetical matchup or rematch between Conor and Floyd, or is Floyd going to fight in MMA? And there's a million videos on that. But this week was the first time that I saw something that was saying Floyd is going to fight in the Octagon, or he's going to fight again, and it'll be under the UFC banner, but it's with these sort of modified rules, 4-ounce gloves and all this stuff. And I got to say, from right off the bat, not a fan of this at all. I don't want to see it. I have basically no desire to see Floyd Mayweather fight if we're going to have this modified rules thing. If you're going to fight MMA, then fight MMA. And I can respect that. Even if they give you an opponent who is not world class to fight, I can respect you coming over to a different sport and fighting and testing yourself. Even if you're set up to win that fight, I can respect him coming over to mixed martial arts to test what his combat skills can do in mixed martial arts. But this whole modified rules rematch thing, I just have zero desire to see it. It's basically a boxing match, but without boxing shoes, in a cage. And so it would, Conor would lose that fight, right? If it's a boxing match just in a cage, Conor would lose that fight again. We saw what happened in a boxing match. You can put that in a back alley. You can put that on a basketball court. You can put that in an octagon. You can put that in a ring. It doesn't matter. If it's a boxing match and Conor only has basically two options, I know that's an oversimplification, but if he only has two options, then he's going to lose that fight. And I don't want to see it again. If anything, it only brings down Conor's stock again, because now all those boxing fans that didn't give him his due in the first fight can say, oh, look, here we go again. Conor lost a fight. This time it's in an octagon. Floyd rules all things MMA and UFC. I mean, that's just the worst possible thing that I can imagine happening to the sport of MMA. And so Dana White's already come out and said that this is utter horse crap, essentially, and he has no idea where the rumors are coming from, and they're complete lies, and they couldn't be further from the truth. But we gotta test what he's saying here. Earlier this week, or last week rather, he said that the thing about Conor McGregor throwing the dolly through the bus window was the most disgusting thing he'd ever seen, and it made him sick to his stomach. The next day, he's posting that same video on his own Twitter to promote UFC 223. This is the man who said that Floyd and Conor in boxing would never happen. It's the man that said women in MMA would never, women in the UFC would never happen. He outright said women will not fight ever in the UFC. Dana White is a promoter, and he'll say things to further his agenda. And right now his agenda is likely making a deal between Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather, or Floyd Mayweather and WME, or whoever it is, to get Floyd to fight under that UFC banner and make a ton of money. So he's going to say whatever he needs to say in order to make that happen, including discrediting a report about modified rules. Now, I'm not saying that they're actually going to happen, but I'm saying that we can't say that it's not being discussed or is not going to happen just because Dana White said something. You can basically not believe anything this man says when it comes to something that involves promoting things in his organization, because he'll say whatever he needs to say. And so I think that there's a good chance that these talks did happen. And we got to remember the era that we're in right now. The era that we're in is this parent company of WME, or whatever they're calling themselves these days, I can't quite remember, that have $4 billion worth of debt and a loan to repay from their purchase of the UFC. So they're going to do whatever they need to do to make as much money as possible, because they were involved in a very high-risk loan. And so that's where we're seeing this super fights era, where matches that don't necessarily make sense are happening because they are in the business of making as much money as possible, not in the sport of making sure the number one contender fights the champion at every turn. And so there's no question in my mind that people are talking about what it would look like if Floyd fought in the UFC. Dana has outright said that that's happening. The question is whether or not it's under this modified rules thing. I really hope it's not. I can't express clearly enough to you people that are watching this video how little I desire to see some sort of modified rules fight in the Octagon. If those modified rules, maybe I should take that back. If those modified rules involved kicks, if it was like, let's say, a stand-up kickboxing match and there was limited grappling, maybe I would be in favor of it. But I don't even know if I would like it then. I like mixed martial arts. I like grappling. I like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's all a part of the sport. And so I would want to see that. And if we got to put Floyd up against a white belt or a blue belt or a CM Punk or whoever it's going to be, then do that. But don't do this 4-ounce fight in the 4-ounce glove fight with no kicks and no grappling and no takedowns in the Octagon. I just don't like it. We know Floyd's hands are he said it himself, are pretty brittle and they break easily. So 4-ounce gloves, that would be the draw for something like this, because it's like, well, Floyd can't really punch because his hands will break. But it's still a boxing match, and he's one of the best boxers, if not the best boxer that's ever lived. And please, just keep the Octagon to MMA. I don't want to have this Ali versus Inoki weird rule set or very Pride rules era, Sakuraba versus Royce Gracie modified. I just don't want to see it. If you want to see it, let me know in the comment sections below. I'm not even going to ask you who you think that wins that fight. I don't even want to have that discussion. But if you want to see this fight in the Octagon, please let me know in the comment section, and we can talk about why you want to see it. Why does that fight potentially intrigue you between Conor and Floyd in a modified rules cage match, you could say. But that's all I have to say about that. I'm sure we'll talk about it in great lengths. Sorry for spamming the internet with another Conor versus Floyd video, but, do it for the audience. And I really appreciate you watching. We'll see you next week, and thanks again. Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to watch this content. I'm just a fan with an opinion and a camera, but I love the sport of MMA. So if you want to see some more videos, you can take a look here on the right of this screen. And other than that, I will catch you in the next video.